Hi, I'm Lindy Goodall from Lindy G Embroidery. I'm going to show you some simple tips to improve your embroidery using the Echidna hooping station. You know, the first thing people notice about embroidery is the placement. Is it straight? Is it in the right location? Is it balanced? And the next thing they notice is whether it's smooth and wrinkle-free. Do all the areas line up? And you know, as embroiderers, we notice this more than non-embroiderers. And what controls all that is hooping. Getting it hooped in the right location and get it hooped smoothly. And it doesn't matter if it's a shirt like this or a quilt. We want all our designs centered in those blocks. We don't want to have to cut a huge piece and then cut it down. If we're making a tote bag, we want it centered on that tote bag or on the pocket. If we're working on a towel, we may need to get it lined up so that it's perfectly within a band. And the way you're going to do this is with a hooping station. Now sometimes garments aren't hooped correctly, and if you don't mark and place your hoop correctly, even using a hooping station, you can get it off. This design is actually too close to this arm line, and I think it has to do with when the embroiderer marked it, she was considering this neckline as a standard neckline, but it's wider. So this design ends up too far this way. This one, however, is perfectly placed. Sometimes we need to put something in the center of something large. This pillow sham has some cut work around here, and I needed that design straight and in the center. And the way I did that was with a hooping station. Now, to truly see how valuable a hooping station is, let's first look at how you hoop when you don't have one and you're just working on your table. So here I have a women's medium-size hoodie. And it's a zip front, which means it's going to make it much easier for us to embroider on a home machine, since we don't have to worry about opening up. It's also going to make it easier for us to hoop. Now I have marked it using a chalk line, and you may not be able to see this. I often mark with a chalk line or one of these Hera markers. Let me just show you how the Hera marker works. It just kind of makes a indentation in the fabric, and it works better on some fabrics than others. But it makes it easy for you to mark and not have a permanent line. So when you're using a marking tool, make sure that it's not going to be permanent. So I'm going to have to turn this around to hoop it. I just can't hoop upside down. I've got a piece of cutaway. I have my hoop. And I'm just going to slide my inner hoop, or my outer hoop under there. Get my stabilizer in place. And then try to line up my hoop so that it lines up. You can see that this can be tedious, getting the outer hoop to line up over the inner hoop, because I have no frame of reference here. But if I don't take time during this process and get it exactly where I want, my embroidery is not going to be where I want it. And if my embroidery is not where I want it, then I might not ever wear it. Now that went in with some pressure, and you can see that it's a little crooked here. Now, if I have a smart machine, I can line it up, assuming that I have my design does not max out my hoop area. However, I am not happy with this, so I'm going to pop it out and I'm going to put it back in until I get it lined up. Now my experience is that people will do this maybe 3 times, and on the 3rd time, if it's not right, they just say it's good enough. Well, it might be good enough. If I'm putting a flower or a butterfly on there, it might not make any difference if it's crooked. But if I'm putting a logo on there or something that has strong vertical or horizontal lines, it's going to be crooked and it'll be noticeable. So you want to pay attention to this step. Now you'll notice that it required me some pressure to press that inner hoop in. I didn't have to bounce on it though. If you have to bounce on it, the screw is too tight and you need to loosen it up. If it just falls in, you can finger tighten the screw, but you should take it back out and seat it again. So you might want to do what we call pre-tensioning. So you just take your fabric and your stabilizer, you just put them together and see if it's tensioned correctly, so that when you do go through the process of trying to line it up, it's already set. I'm not going to fool anymore with this because I could be doing this for 20 minutes. Let's see what happens now on the hooping station. If you watch the video on how to assemble the hooping station, this is where we left our hoop. Now, if you didn't watch that, these black marks won't be on yours probably. These were ones that I added using a fine Sharpie pen and a ruler. And I just lined them up with the grooves, and it just helps me with placement. So let me show you a simple demonstration here. I have 3 magnets holding my hoop in place, and you can place these magnets wherever you want. The hooping station comes with 12 magnets, so feel free to use as many as you want. You do want to make sure that your hoop has area to expand, and if you have a hoop that has a spring in it that holds it open, it's much easier. If you have an older hoop or a hoop that doesn't have a spring in it, you'll notice that when I take the hoop out, it just collapses. There's nothing to hold that hoop open. So if you don't have any springs on your hoop, just order some from your dealer, take the screw out, put a spring in there, and then put it back in, and it's as good as new. So I've got my hoop lined up so that the markings line up with these lines on my hooping station. I'll take my stabilizer and just lay it over this. We're going to embroider a quilt block, and I'm just going to do a red work kind of design, so I'm using a wash away stabilizer. This is Hemingworth wash away stabilizer. It's one of my favorites. And then I'll just take my block and I've marked it. Now I have marked this again with a Sharpie pen just to make it easy for you to see what's going on, and I'll just line that up. I've cut my block about 1/2 inch bigger all the way around. You want to have a little bit of leeway because embroidery tends to pull the fabric in, and if this were a perfect square going into my machine, it definitely would not be a perfect square coming out because of the tension. Even with some red work designs that can happen. So you want to have a little bit of leeway so that you can square it up afterwards. Now, I don't like to cut a lot of excess fabric, so you just got to work accordingly. So now I'm going to press my hoop in, and I'm working kind of backwards here, and I didn't get quite lined up here, but I am straight. So if I had enough space to move my design over, I could line it up and get it in the hoop. Now all I have to do is take the magnets off the stabilizer, take the hoop off, take it to my machine, embroider, and then my magnets are already lined up so that I can just set it in place for the next one when I pop my inner hoop out. Now remember when I was talking about pre-tensioning your hoop, when I get done with this one, I'm just going to pop that out. I am not going to touch the hoop screw because I have pre-tensioned this one for this fabric and this stabilizer. And as long as I'm not changing either the fabric or the stabilizer, I don't need to adjust the screw. So I'm ready to go. Now obviously if you're doing a lot of quilt blocks, or you're doing something like table napkins, a set of table napkins for a setting of 12, or say 30 t-shirts for your family reunion, you're going to want to have extra hoops. Now I'm working kind of backwards here. When I was working on the table and pressing that inner hoop in, my wrists were at right angles. And if you're hooping those 30 t-shirts or those 12 napkins, you're going to have some stress on your hands. When you're working from the right side of the station, your hands are more at an angle, a good angle, so that it's more ergonomically friendly. So now that we've done the easy thing, let's do a garment. This is the youth side that I have up, and I use it for doing small projects, or actually I just use the big side up most of the time. And this is the adult side. I have a bigger working surface. Because this has this non-skid surface on here, it makes it easy to work on flat items. A lot of other hooping stations you can't because it's slippery. You'll also notice that there are no holes in here. This is not like a pegboard, and it's not plastic. It's a nice solid looking piece of furniture. Instead of working with little screws that you have to find the little hole and they drop and they're hard to find, we have magnets. And so I can just throw these. In fact, we play this game of hoop darts, and we put a little target on there, and we'll just throw these. So it's kind of fun. And the reason they work is because there's a thin metal sheet underneath this plastic. Now, this is just stuck on, so if yours gets real gummy looking, you can peel it off and put a new one on. Once again, I have my lines drawn, and I also have 2 dots. The pink dot is for me, and the green dot is for my husband. Now, I don't do a lot of production embroidery or make a lot of shirts, but when I do shirts, they're usually just for the 2 of us. And this gives me the preferred location for most of my shirts and most of his shirts. And all I've done is I've just taken some colored dots that you get at the office supply store, measured out where I want them, and then drawn a crosshair using these as reference guides to get them straight so I know where the center is. Now, if you want to get really fancy, you could tape a little tiny bead over that so that you could feel it through your fabric. I don't get too crazy about that. Now, the advantage of not having any holes and not being restricted to certain areas is you can work with any hoop. So I can work with this hoop, and I would just line up my guides with this. Or I could work with this hoop for my commercial machine. Once again, I would line up the marks, and it would work. And I would just place my magnets where I need to. So let's line up our item here, put the magnets in place, and you can use as many magnets as you need. You can get by with just 3, and just to test it, just kind of jiggle it and see if it's sturdy. So now I'm going to put my stabilizer in place. Go back to my hoodie, zip it up, pull it on over the hooping station. Smooth it into place, make sure it's straight, and now I'm ready to hoop. Now, I'm going to have to hoop from the front of this hooping station because I can't really hoop upside down. So now I've got you looking over my left shoulder, standing beside me. My zipper is lined up with the center here. My shirt is smoothed over, and all I have to do now is to line up my inner hoop, press it in, pull it off, and I'm ready to go. I'm just going to unzip it and make it easier to pull off. And if I look at the back, my stabilizer is all smooth and wrinkle-free. I'm just going to lightly press my hoop in just a little bit farther, and I'm ready to go to the machine with that now. See how easy that is versus trying to do it on a table? So I think you'll find that the hooping station will improve your accuracy, it will reduce your hooping time, and if you don't pay attention to hooping, it's all downhill after this.